Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some crystals. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of crystals. Some of this is going to get a little bit out there for some of y'all, so if you're not flexible in your thinking, this is probably not the place for you. If you're not uh, able to adjust what you've always known, it's probably not the place for you. But if you're searching for new knowledge, this might be the place for you. Uh, we're going to be talking about how we classify crystals. We're going to use a scientific method. I'm going to let the military explain it to us right now.
Now, I want to show you a piece of quartz crystal in its natural form. Now, if we were to examine this carefully, we can see that the quartz crystal has a hexagonal cross-section. That is to say, it has 6 sides. Now, also, quartz crystal in its natural form has pointed ends. This one doesn't because a primary cut has already been made on this crystal. Now, let's take a look at this drawing so that we can determine more about the quartz crystal. There are 2 views. The top view indeed shows us that the quartz crystal has a hexagon shape, 6 sides, while the lower view points out that indeed the quartz crystal in its natural form does have pointed ends. Now, when a piece of crystal is going to be cut, imaginary lines are used as the reference points for cutting. And these imaginary lines are known as crystal axes. Let's take a look at this drawing of a crystal and see the exact location of the crystal axes. The axis passing from point to point, or end to end, and directly through the crystal is known as the z-axis. Remember, from end to end, directly through the center. The axis passing through the corners of the crystals is known as the x-axis. Remember, it goes through the corners. While the axis perpendicular to the faces of the crystal is known as the y-axis, going through the faces. Now let's remember these are only imaginary lines and are used as reference points when cutting the...
Okay, now that we've got these axes and you understand where they come from, the X, the Y, the Z, we're going to show a couple of different cuts.
The properties which a crystal exhibits are dependent on the manner in which it's cut. Now there are many different cuts, but we're only going to examine 3 basic cuts. Let's go to this chart and see exactly how we make these 3 particular cuts. The first cut is made perpendicular to the x-axis, which you will recall passed through the corners of the crystal, perpendicular to that axis and parallel to the z-axis. Now, to get a more realistic view of this cut, let's go to a mock-up. Remember, we're considering the x-axis passing through the corners of the crystal. The cut is made perpendicular to this x-axis and parallel to the z-axis. And the cut would look something like this. You can see that it's only a small portion of the natural crystal. Now, since this cut was made in reference to the x-axis, it is known as an x-cut crystal. Okay, let's go back to the chart and see how another cut is made. For this cut, we will use the y-axis, which passed through the face of the crystal. This cut will be taken perpendicular to the y-axis, and it also is parallel to the z, which you will recall ran through the center of the crystal. Remember, perpendicular to the y, parallel to the z. And again, to get a more realistic view of this cut, let's go back to the mock-up. Remember, the y-axis passed through the face of the crystals in this manner. We'll cut perpendicular to that and parallel to the z-axis. And we come up with our second cut, which in this case, since we took it in reference to the y-axis, would be known as a y-cut crystal. Then let's go back to our chart for the third and final cut. Now, this time we're going to cut at an angle from the z-axis. Recall the z-axis passes through the center of the crystal from end to end. And for this cut, we'll cut at a 35-degree angle from the z-axis. Remember, 35 degrees from this z-axis. Okay, back to the mock-up once more. Now, in this case, the crystal cut is taken right in, or made right into the face of the crystal. Remember, the z-axis is running down through the crystal in this manner. And we'll cut at a 35-degree angle from this z-axis. And removing the cut from the crystal, again, only a small portion of the natural crystal, we call this cut an AT cut.
And now that we see what they pull out of the stone, the stones, and that's what they use for the resonance frequencies. The resonance of the stones depends upon the type and the cut of the stone, as explained here.
Now, let's look at some of the values, both physical and electrical, of a typical crystal. Physical size, a typical crystal would have a thickness of about 0.025 inches. The width would be about 1.3 inches. The length would be 1.08 inches. And with these physical characteristics, the resonant frequency, or the fundamental frequency, would be 430 kilocycles. Now, with this physical dimensions, or these physical dimensions, let's look at the electrical values. The vibrating crystal would have an inductance of about 3.3 Henry, a capacitance of 0.042 microfarads. The capacitance of the crystal holder would be about 5.8 microfarads. And this crystal would have a Q of around 23,000. Now let's remember, these values were for a crystal cut for a fundamental frequency of 430 kilocycles, and will not hold true for all crystals, but it does give us an idea of relative value. As you can see, the thinner cut here, the thicker cut here. We're indicating here that the vibration of this thinner cut, or the frequency, is greater than this cut. Now, this will always hold true. The thinner the crystal cut, the higher the frequency of oscillation. Now, another characteristic which will be different for the various crystal cuts is the temperature coefficient of the crystal. Temperature coefficient is the relationship between temperature and frequency change. Temperature coefficient is actually the effect that a change in temperature will have on the frequency of the crystal. Now, let's compare the temperature coefficients of the three cuts that we just considered, the X, Y, and AT cut crystals. To do that, we'll use this chart. On the left, we're indicating the type of crystal cut, the X, Y, and AT. Let's begin then with the X cut. The temperature coefficient of the X cut is negative. This means that if temperature about the crystal increases, the crystal frequency will decrease. A negative temperature coefficient. An increase in temperature, a decrease in frequency. The Y-cut crystal has a positive temperature coefficient. If temperature increases, the frequency increases also. A positive temperature coefficient. The AT cut crystal has a zero temperature coefficient. That is to say, as long as the temperature ranges between 40 to 50 degrees centigrade. Remember, as long as the temperature is within this range, the frequency of oscillation will remain the same. Then the AT cut has a zero temperature coefficient.
And now that we know that the different stones, cut and size, make a difference in its vibrational frequency, input and output, what it can take and what it gives out, we need to understand that these different axes are what they use to classify the different types of stones. There are 7 stones, including one extra, 8th completion of the octave, that is the unformed stones. It is either a little bit too hot or too cold, right, on both ends of the extreme. It encompasses all of the things. It is the raw materials. It's called amorphous. But then we have triclinic, monoclinic, orthorhombic, triagonal, tetragonal, hexagonal, and cubic. There are 7 types, and they just happen to overlay. They just happen to get more structure as you go up, and I will show that as we go along. Alright, before we get into this next part, I want y'all to know something. I don't come into these things trying to step on toes, but sometimes toes have to be stepped on. And because toes have to be stepped on, I try to do it carefully. There's a lot about what I'm about to say that's going to be different than what you've probably heard. I look at it a little bit differently than most people do. I do other things in the same manner. I have done other things on this channel in the same manner. And so we're going to look at this in a somewhat scientific woo-woo manner. Let me grab my focus this here. Okay, let's go with this. This is a tool. This tool right here allows you to focus vibrations from the human body. Some of you are comfortable with leaving right now. If that is too crazy for you, you probably don't want to be here. You have to believe that you can move energy through your body in order to believe any of what I am fixing to tell you. So if you cannot believe that, you shouldn't be here. But if you do believe that you can move energy through your body, this is a tool. This is a vibrational adjustment tool. This helps to move the magnetics in your body in relation to what type of crystal that it is. What type of crystal that it is specified by the systems. First we have the amorphous. The amorphous is not a crystal. It is something else. It is the before and after. It is bridging the spectrum of the crystals. There are 7 types of crystals, and then there is the amorphous, which exists just outside of that, which would make the 8th for the octave, right? I believe that all life is a harmonic, and because all life is a harmonic, the vibrations can be adjusted. And one of the tools we have to adjust that is this. And we're going to start in the triclinic system, because the triclinic system, and this is where the stepping on toes part comes in. This is the triclinic crystals are what you're going to use to cleanse your base. All of them. It doesn't matter what color they are, but the color does matter, because they also do other things too, right? Every single triclinic system crystal, amazonite, labradorite, aventurine, feldspar, rhodonite, kyanite, turquoise. All of these, when you use them, work on your base. Every one of them. But they also work somewhere else. And so we're going to go through them real quick. This one is rhodonite. This is one of the ones, and this one is actually focused on your base as well. It is mainly red. I don't think this one actually even varies, besides having the inclusion of black. Black, white, and clear are great signifiers of the other, of the outside, of the divine. And so when it's included in this, it is for balancing the divine with the base. This is a base stone with inclusions of the divine and the base color. And so it is very good for balancing your base against the divine when you're using it to tune your energies. When you take and you push energy out of your power arm and you push it into your focus, it gets tuned into the correct vibrational frequency, which you can then take in using your non-power arm and move. You can believe that or not. I use this. I believe it. And so, if you have this rhodonite, that is going to help you when you are focusing in your meditation to focus your base energy with the divine and balance that magnetic harmonics. Whereas if you go to kyanite, kyanite comes in different colors. It has a blue, it has an orange, it has a black. There's a shade that is almost yellow. These are used for the corresponding parts in your aura: the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Each one of these stones, each one of them doesn't have all of them, but there is something to represent all of them. The Amazonite is heart, and sometimes it has the inclusions of the white, and the inclusions of the white means for the divine. So it is balancing your base, your heart, and the divine. That is all three sides, right, of the torus. The heart is the middle of the torus, and it goes out and up into the divine, and it goes down and into the base, and it surrounds you. So this is a Merkaba stone, basically. And it's for harmonizing your Merkaba. Adventuring. It's also green. But there's a yellow and there's a red here too. And so that is used for different parts of your. And I don't claim to know all of what there is to know about these things, but what we have been using up to the current point has been incomplete. There has been a focus on the color, where somebody would tell you that this red aventurine is simply for the base and the green one is simply for the heart, but that's not true. It's for moving the magnetics between the 2 points. Think of it like a jumper cable, and when you put your energy into that, it harmonizes the tones in such a way that you can cleanse that magnetic energy, and you can harmonize it. You can make it into the proper form. Like for me, I don't see the lights, I don't see the colors, but I can make the form using mental mapping, basically. I have aphantasia. And then labradorite is for the upper parts of the chakra. Once you get past the heart, there are some purples, but it's real hard to get into the indigos, right? But you'll see a lot of turquoise and stuff like that is a blue, but some of the quartz gets kind of like that. I think beryl's purple, but there's not a lot of examples of that. But you can look in these flakes inside the labradorite and see the colors included. This is an inclusion stone for the upper. So if you have labradorite, it connects the base with the upper chakras. It'll be throat, third eye, crown, and the divine, all in one stone. So it's a very useful stone to have. If you were going to have one for working your upper area, this is a good one to have, as opposed to trying to find stones that are individually colored, right? And then turquoise. Now this one is a third eye divine. The reason that this has been sacred to the native peoples of the American continent forever is because this stone is very powerful. I have a chunk of it in here. This is a chunk of it here, and then I've got another chunk right here. And these are really good stones for vibrating your energy when you're trying to read the Akashic records. This is some good stones to have, and if you got two of them, one in each hand, it makes the energy transfer a little bit easier. It's not necessary. None of these stones are necessary to do anything that I need. You don't ever have to have any of these things. These things are vibrational focuses. They help you to concentrate better in the proper manner. And that's going to bring us into the monoclinic system. The monoclinic system is going to be dealing with our sacral chakras, y'all. This is going to be azurite, epidote, howlite, moonstone, serpentine, vivianite, chrysocolla, gypsum, kunzite, muscovite, mica, spodumene, diopside, hiddenite, lazulite, petalite, staurolite. I'm not going to open all of these, but we are going to look at a few of them. We're going to look at the colors. These all have to deal with your sacral, but they have to deal with balancing your sacral against something else too, right? Like you can use all of these stones for their own thing, but you can also use them as a kind of a jumper cable between two different spots. And so we have the orange here, which would be for this, but it has inclusions of white. That inclusions of white is for the divine, so that we can balance our sacral with the divine. This is moonstone. So if you're working on that, here's black moonstone. So guess what? That's working with incorporating your shadow side, because you have a shadow side, you have a light side, and you're not to eliminate either one. You are to integrate both of them and achieve the balance. So a black moonstone can be very beneficial in that. I have a very tiny little flake of that. I've got to get some more. And then we have epidite. Epidite is more into the greenish, and just yellow and green, so it's working a little bit higher in the stack. We're getting into our solar plexus and the beginnings of the heart. You can use this for either one of those and for your sacral. Here you can really see the energy of the monoclode, because it's the rapid growth. This is the beginning of real structure. This is when it starts forming into crystalline surfaces without the well-defined structure of a cubic, but enough that you can tell, hey, this is going to be a crystal, right? The serpentine is going to be dealing with the heart. This one is really good for balancing your heart. Like, this is a really good stone for balancing your heart. And it has, like, you can get this one that is like yellow into green with the white or with the black for working shadow side. And they have it with the yellow into green and white for working the light side. It is a really good one for integrating those points. If you don't have any other heart stone, this would be the one to have, because it is really good at that. Just look at those. Look at those stones. Those are beautiful. Anyway, I'm not here to pitch their site, even though there's prices on all of this. None of this is affiliated with me at all. And then azurite, these are just really good examples. They put all the pretty stuff out so you can see it, and maybe you want to buy it. There are prices on here. You can find it at crystalage.com. It has nothing to do with me. But the azurite is the blue. Then we're getting into the upper. But again, we see the combination of the uppers. Like this is a combination stone. It's for the upper register. There's blue, but this is another good one to have if you don't have anything else, right? You can really use this one to touch more than one spot. And then the final one we're going to look at in this example is the howlite, because this is a really good example of using it. This is the same stone with different mineral inclusions, so it comes out in different colors. And each of those different colors helps you in a different way. They've got red, you've got indigo, we've got purples, we got blues, we got greens. Anything you want to balance, you can find right here for your sacral spot. None of this is orange, but this stone itself is the frequency of the sacral. And that's what I'm really trying to show here. The common understanding of this is that the colors make a difference, and it does. It's just there's a bigger difference made by the actual stone itself. And the way that we've been classifying them hasn't been full or complete. Alright, so orthorhombic system is going to include alexandrite, chrysoberyl, dumonterite, iolite, ziosite, and andalusite, chrysoberyl, enstatite, tanzanite, celestite, danburite, hemimorphite, and topaz. We're going to look at a couple examples of these. This stone in particular is going to be focused for your solar plexus. This is the 4 points. This is, let's look at it here. The three mutually perpendicular twofold axes is the defining characteristics of these stones. Uh, See the lines, right? If you got a tiger's eye, I don't have my tiger's eye on me, but I do have one, and if you look at it, it's got these lines like this. Y'all can see it. There's a blue one right here that y'all can, but this is another one that comes in a lot of colors. It is for balancing the other auras against your solar plexus, because all of your auras are supposed to be aligned against each other. As long as they are all properly aligned and you have a fully functioning stack, you can access your divine, and you can have access to the divine wisdoms and the peace of knowing that comes with that. But it takes a lot of work, and these are used as tools to help you do that. And like, it's hard to find a yellow stone, y'all, so this is the good one to have for a yellow stone. You can use it just for your solar plexus, and at yellow, this is a great stone to have. A yellow cat's eye is perfect, right? A blue cat's eye is going to balance your solar plexus and your third eye. That's going to help you to be able to see the future better and be nourished by it. Like, those things interplay with each other, and if you can balance them between each other where they're at the proper alignment for you, that's really the goal. So these stones are great for this, and this is a chrysoberyl. The dumortierite, say that 3 times fast. This is a good one for the third eye, balancing the third eye with the solar plexus. Right? This is a solar plexus stone. It also has inclusions of the divine, so you can balance your third eye with divine will, or with the shadow side, with this duratite palm stone here. And again, I'm not associated with this website in any manner. So if y'all choose to go over there and buy stuff, that's on y'all. I get no benefit from it. This one is a really good one right here. This is for balancing your shadow side with the various places, right? You're dealing with your sacral, but you're also dealing with your heart here. You're also dealing with your base here. And you're dealing with your shadow. This is a real good stone for doing shadow work and getting those areas aligned in the right way. And that is a ruby zoisite. This one is an andalusite. This one is an orange into yellow. It has a brownish overtone, but it would be good for balancing your sacral and your solar plexus, and somewhat with some shadow work. I didn't really like the very examples. But then here we got celestite. Celestite is another one that's really going to upset some people, because people will associate this with crown, and that's close. But it's actually divine. This is the divine balancer for your sacral. And so it works with your crown, kind of. But that's because you're receiving the information from the divine. And there's a lot of misinterpretation between the crown and the divine there. The divine is the force that surrounds you. That is the Merkaba, right? You have the 7 internal, and then you have the 8th completion of the octave, the beginning of the next octave, that surrounds and encompasses all of them, and it takes all of the different colors and creates the new color of white as the divine color. And you have the white and the dark because you have a light and a dark side, and you have to balance them. Like, you don't want to be too bright white, you don't want to be too dark black, but a nice subtle shade of gray is quite alright. And this in particular is for balancing that. This works on your light side. There are stones for your darker side to balance. We've talked about several of them. But this one in particular is really good for balancing your solar plexus with the divine. And so I wanted to put a special emphasis on that, because this is one that is, like, you can't misuse any crystal, right? You can't. It's to a large degree subjective. The way that I do it resonates personally with me, and it may not be the way that you would do it. It may not be a way that you would recognize. But I can tell you unequivocally that the way that I do it works for me. And the way I do it is to push energy through the stones, into the stones, and refine that energy according to the vibration that the stone is based upon, using the colors as a guide to help, as a jumper cable, as a booster, as a junction between two different zones. Alright, so now we're into the trigonals. The trigonal system is going to be representing the heart, right? And so examples are going to include AJ, calcite, hematite, quartz, ruby, tiger's eye, amethyst, carnelian, jasper, rhodochrosite, sapphire, tourmaline, aventurine, citrine, phenakite, rose quartz, rarely crystallizes, and smoky quartz. We're going to look at several examples because they're pretty, and why not? All of these stones are going to be focused on your heart, despite the colors, but several of them have green in them to help. A green jasper is going to help you with your heart, but this inclusion of red is going to help you with your base. Inclusion of black is going to help you with your shadow. And inclusion of white, like this right here is an amazing stone. Let's see, can I pop that up? Look at this. That is an amazing stone for working on the heart with the divine. Like, just amazing. And then we got these. Like, let's look at them. I like that. Look at that. You got yellow, you've got red. And so you can use this to balance your heart against your sacral and against your base and against your shadow and against your light. And to achieve the balance in your meditation that way. Agate. Right, this is agate. An agate is the actual chunk, right? I have one over there actually, but you can see it. It's what you see like the geode crystal when you cut it in half. Well, these are the actual agates, and they're for the heart. This is like a heart growing, right? It's like a crystal growing out. Like it really is quite heart-like. And there's several colors and there's several inclusions so that you can balance your heart against many different things with a slice of agate. So if you get the proper agate, you can balance your heart against your whole body. Like, look at this one. Just look at the possibility there. You've got red, you've got yellow, you've got brown, you've got white. There's probably some tones of blue and green in there. Like, that is an amazingly beautiful piece of balancing equipment right there. And again, I am not associated with this website at all. I just randomly found them, and they have really good examples of pretty stones. This is calcite, so calcite is going to be used for your heart, but here's some orange, so you can use that for your solar plexus, or yellow and use that for your sacral, or clear and use it for your divine, and white. The point I'm trying to make is that the stone itself holds a value in your stack, and then the color also holds another value that is used for another purpose in addition to the actual purpose of the stones. We've got hematite. Hematite's a good shadow work stone. I've got several pieces back here on the board. I just dropped my protractor. Several pieces of magnetic hematite back here on the board that I play with all the time, and I use these to help with my heart. Quartz. Quartz comes in a variety of colors. You can get quartz really cheap. Like these blue quartz tumble stones right here, 96 cents a piece. That's ridiculously cheap, right? $6 for this tumbler full of them. So it's relatively easy to get, and balancing your heart against all of these colors is a great thing. And if you can get all of these colors really cheap, you can use that to balance the other parts too. Like, it's not like it's exclusive to your heart. It just works better for your heart. So you can use a blue one to balance your third eye against your third eye. It's just not as easy as it would be with a third eye stone. And then tiger's eye is absolutely beautiful too. And it's another one that holds a lot of shadow work, fixing shadows. So if you're working on your shadow against your heart and against particularly your solar plexus or your sacral, that's good. It's a good stone to have. Look at that cute. Oh, that's so nice. And then finally, we're going to look at these carnelian. This is a good base. And then, like, you've got several different gemstones here. But this is a good base stone. A base heart stone. Alright, so, tetragonal. That's going to bring us into our throat. Our throat. And we're going to look at some examples, but this includes anatase, rudolite, wolfenite, apophyllite, scapulite, zircon, chalcopyrite, scheelite. Man, that's a mouthful. But we're going to look at a couple of examples. This is where structure really starts to show itself. This is where it starts to appear crystalline. This is where we start to see some clarity, some definition begin in a meaningful way. You can see these tiny crystals form and propagate and move forward, but they're becoming their own separate entities instead of facing each other and being a single entity in the lower harmonics. So as we're raising our harmonics, we're getting more separate, more individualized, more structured. This is good for working with the divine. It's clear. I believe there's a yellow variant as well. This is scapulite. We have an indigo scapulite. There is also a purple, and there's a yellow. These are good for using in the upper region, right? This is throat stone. So you're aligning your throat and your sacral, or you're aligning your throat and your crown, whatever the case may happen to be. In alignment with the divine. You see a lot of inclusions with the divine as the higher harmonics go on. This is zircon. Zircon has a variety of colors as well. It's good for working in the lower harmonics with the throat. There tend to be a lot of yellows, reds, and oranges here. And then we have, this is chalcopyrite, also known as peacock ore. It shifts a little bit as you turn it, and it's funny that a throat stone would be able to lie, right? So this is a good one for if you're working on clearing some throat energy and you're working with some lying energy. This is a good place to invest that energy. That's going to bring us into hexagonal. Hexagonal is going to be the third eye. This is going to be the looking forward part, right? This is going to contain apatite, cancrinite, morganite, aquamarine, emerald, sugilite, beryl, goshenite, and zincite. Here we start seeing some more crystal definition in the stone. We start seeing a little bit of clarity. We're able to see a little depth into the stone and see the finer structure within. This apatite comes in several colors. There is a blue, there is a yellow, there is a brown. These are all good for working with the various chakras. We also have cancrinite. Oh, well, that one doesn't really show up. Morganite. This one is good for working with your divine and working with your base. We got a red here. We have clear and white. So that's divine and base. Aquamarine is good for the heart. And remember, this is the third eye stone. So it's balancing your heart with your third eye. And coming to know, going forward, what your heart truly desires is balancing those energies. And so that's what this stone is good for helping with. If you've got a third eye stone, which is good for looking forward, and you're trying to find your heart's desire, this is the energy you'll want to resonate with. Sugilite is more of an indigo. That would be a very handy one to have, correct? If you're trying to connect your third eye with the divine, you might want to have that. And then we're going to finally look at an example of an emerald here. I wanted to pull this up so that we can see the hexagonal shape. This is showing us some clarity. You can see some occlusions here. This is not a premium example of a specimen, but there's some bubble inclusion here, of course. But you can see the lines and the divisions here. When they shape these faces on these stones, they're not really cutting as much as revealing the fault lines on a good stone, right? That's what they do on a well-shaped stone. And when they reveal those facets, it breaks pretty smooth, and then they just polish it from there. And you can see the hexagonal shape of the emerald pretty clearly. This hexagonal shape is repeated in a lattice down through the stone. I pulled this up because it's a decent example of that. And in these higher matrices, if you're working with these higher energies, you need to understand lattices very much, because working at this frequency requires lattice work. So we will get into more of that at another point, but I really want to make sure that's pointed out. Working at the higher frequencies, because the third eye frequency is manifestation. This is pulling into existence things that have, and this is where you have to have your intentionality set. This is where you have to have your motivations pure. This is where you have to have things aligned before you really attract the wrong things unintentionally. So this is where lattice work is very important. And you can see the clarity that is representative of the clarity that you need prior to using these energetic forces. Alright, and that's going to bring us into the cubic system. This is going to be the crown. This is going to be the top, right? This is going to be dealing with getting the divine energy in. This is going to be the focus for receiving divine energy. It's going to be very hard to obtain, such as it is diamond, gold, spinel, fluorite, pyrite, garnet, and silver. We're going to look at a couple of examples just so that we understand that the way that it's chosen is like this is raw diamond. This is what a chunk of raw diamond looks like, and it's a little bit big for y'all, but you can really see some of the definition here. It comes out and it's got points on the ends that you really can't see, but you can see the flat faces right here. These flat faces are part of what makes it a diamond. The 90 degrees here, the fine structure. But this chunk of raw diamond is what you have. It's just raw, unrefined. But if you take the time, you can refine it into, by breaking away facets and cleaning up faces, you can turn it into something that you can channel into, right? That is your chakra cleaned up. When you've done your shadow work, you've done your alignment work, this is what your crown chakra, or your crown chakra, this is the stone for you. Right? This is exceptionally hard to get a hold to, because it's a powerful stone. This is gold. This is gold ore. We've all seen gold when it's been forged and made into things, and it's nice and pretty, but it comes out looking like little squares. And it is a heavy metal, but it's good for focusing things. The reason you have wedding rings is because it imbues a power and a symbiosis between you and your partner, conducted through the rings. And then finally, we're going to look at spinel. This is not one of the lesser known precious stones, but this is a beautiful stone. This is connecting your divine with the base. This is a full body stone right here. And you look at it and it comes out in cubics. So it kind of looks like cubes. Sometimes it's square. But when you make it pretty, when you take the time to focus it, it sure makes a really pretty stone. What we're doing is showing the basis of the stones so that we can use them to help us to achieve the polishing, the knocking away of the faces and cleaning them loose and getting the clarity and providing the structure in our own lives. And now we need to talk about overtones real quick, because the overtones are really what I'm talking about when I say grounding. When I'm talking about the using it as a jumper cable, that is the overtone harmonic of the stone. And here's an explanation of overtones and resonance.
Earlier in the lesson, we discussed the various crystal cuts and how each was different from the other. However, they do have one thing in common. That is, they can be made to oscillate at frequencies other than that frequency for which they were cut. Now, when a crystal is used in a circuit in this manner, it's referred to as an overtone crystal. Now, getting a crystal to act as an overtone crystal is nothing more than causing it to oscillate at a harmonic of the frequency for which it was cut. And I might add here that the crystals will oscillate only at odd harmonics of their fundamental frequency. Now, for example, if a crystal was cut for a frequency of 10 megacycles, it can be made to oscillate at 30 megacycles, the third harmonic or the third overtone. You might ask, how is this accomplished? Simply by increasing the feedback to the point where the crystal is shocked into vibrations at the odd harmonic rather than the fundamental frequency. And let's determine what's happening when this is true. Now, here we're indicating the distortions that exist in the crystal when it's oscillating at its fundamental frequency. Here is representing the crystal at rest, no oscillation. Here the crystal is deformed to produce one alternation, and here it's deformed in the opposite manner to produce the other alternation. Now, this is when it's oscillating at its fundamental frequency. Notice that the deformities are opposite for each alternation. Now, here we're representing the crystal when it's made to oscillate in the third overtone. Now, let's notice that the crystal breaks up into 3 layers when it's oscillating at the third overtone. Now, this is representing the deformed layers to produce one alternation. Here, the deformed layers for the other alternation. And let's notice that the deformities are opposite for each alternation. Now, if the crystal is made to operate on the 5th overtone, it breaks down into 5 layers. If it's made to operate in the 7th, it breaks down into 7 layers and so on. But I might hasten to add that a crystal cut for a fundamental frequency is limited to only a few overtones. When higher overtone modes are desired, then a crystal is precision ground and mounted in a special holder, and it would be used specifically for these higher overtones.
Hopefully that's clear enough of an explanation, but it's a tone not necessarily intended for the cut of the stone. And that's all that really is. And so what we have is, when we have a base stone that has a color for the third eye chakra, right? That is a third eye overtone. That is a base note with a third eye overtone, so that you can bring those into resonance, so that you can integrate them, so that you can clear them, and you can work together with those 2 points. So that's the purpose of the overtones. All right, so hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic. If you have questions that are not answered here, let me know. Hit me in the comments down below. I will try to address them. We will be doing more videos on this. What I really enjoy doing, y'all, is explaining these things. Like, these things get told to me. Like, I'm accessing the records. I am. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but if you're this far along, you're okay with a little bit crazy. I am accessing the Akashic records, and this is being revealed to me through that. And so I'm not trying to harm anybody or intentionally step on anybody's toes or say that anybody's been doing things wrong, even though we haven't had the completeness of the lesson yet. We're entering into a new level of understanding. And that new level of understanding is going to be based on this stuff. Like, this is literally being revealed for the other side of the shift. And so I'm just trying to pass along what I'm getting. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to help you to understand these mechanics, so that if you are one of the lucky ones that make it out of the other side of the shift, like my timeline has me being, hopefully you, wherever you are, can start to reorganize using these things, and that we can start on the other side of this disaster, because there will be a disaster if you're unaware. On the other side of this disaster, we can reestablish civilization. We can reestablish a more useful civilization. Like we've achieved a lot this last 6,000 years, like a lot. But what could we do if we were basing this off of the right things? And what we're going to do now is learn the right things so that we can base them off of that. That's what we're going to do. The planning videos and the things that we need to know for the other side of the shift. And the gate has finally been lifted. I've been put over onto this channel, and so that's what we're going to do. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, this has been Pitt. Peace.